Hello Magic Makers, welcome to Storytime with Mombierella. This is a young adult fiction and may be inappropriate for some younger audiences. Mother Knows Best, A Tale of the Old Witch by Serena Valentino. Copyright Disney Enterprises Incorporated, 2018. Chapter 6, Black Cellophane Sky. Gothel, Primrose, and Hazel were standing outside the conservatory, holding hands and waiting for their mother to come out to tell them it was time for the ceremony. There was a chill in the air that made them shiver and huddle closer together. The sky resembled black cellophane with tiny pinholes of light. The moon was a thin, shining crescent. None of it looked quite real. It was like a paper cutout. It was too perfect to have such a remarkable witch's moon on that night. The perfect moon for that sort of magic. And there was something inexplicable in the air. The dead woods felt different to the witches on that night, but they couldn't figure out how. "The woods feel alive," said Hazel. "Somehow they feel alive." "The woods are alive, my dear Hazel." Minia came out to greet her daughters. She had artfully arranged her hair in a high, elaborate configuration of large curls and golden Rapunzel flowers. It had been many years since the sister witches had seen their mother so formally dressed. She wore a golden floor-length, empire-waisted gown with long full sleeves that shimmered in the light, and her skin also glowed like she'd bathed in Rapunzel flower dust. She didn't look at all like the mother they knew. She looked younger, somehow more majestic than they'd ever seen her. "You've always felt so much, too much in fact. It's the singular aspect about you that has always caused me trepidation. But I see now it will work in your favor. Always trust your feelings, Hazel. They are your guides. You feel the vibrations of the world around you. You feel the emotions of others more profoundly than anyone else I've met. Even with only a small amount of my blood within you. You even feel the dead." "The dead?" Primrose looked around nervously, trying to find the dead, but all she could see was endless darkness. "Yes, my dear child, the dead." Minia took her gaze from her bewildered daughters and looked towards the dense part of the forest, where her creatures were waiting for her. "Come, my love, and bring my children forth, so they may behold the future queens of the dead." The tall grotesquerie Minia had called her love stepped out of the shadows as if walking through a pitch-black curtain of night. His trousers and long coat hung on his lanky skeletal body like rags. The leathery skin stretched over his skull glistened in the light from the open conservatory door. He was surrounded by innumerable skeletal creatures, their numbers stretching for miles into the darkest parts of the forest. They were silent, morose creatures, standing almost entirely still, waiting for instructions from their leader. The lanky creature raised his hand, motioning to the skeletal minions to make a pathway, parting the sea of skeletons down the center. The witches couldn't see what was making its way towards them, but they could hear something. It was a choir of little whimpers, the chattering of tiny voices, their pitch full of fear and muffled by sobs. "Come, come, my little ones, welcome. Behold your future queens." To the young witch's horror, they saw what was coming out of the darkness. The children from the village. The children slowly made their way through the sea of skeletons, while huddled around a ghastly woman with putrid skin that was deeply bruised. The poor woman had a vacant, terrified look at her face, her bulbous eyes darting around, taking in the scene. She didn't seem to notice the horrified children huddled around her, or their tiny hands grasping at her, trying to hold on to her. "What's wrong with the children's eyes?" wondered Primrose, her voice barely a whisper. The children's eyes were covered in what looked like dried tar. It was black, shiny, set into the hollows of their eye sockets. The young witches had never seen anything so horrifying. The sight of the poor children, with their flesh wounds and bruised little bodies, broke their hearts. "Is that woman? Are these children? Are they from the village? You killed them?" asked Primrose, trembling and fumbling her words. "Calm yourself, daughter. They would be even more terrified if they could see," said Minia offhandedly. "You're a monster," sneered Primrose, looking at her mother with utter contempt. "What would you have me do? All of our creatures must be in attendance. They must be bound to you." "They're not creatures. They're children. Children you killed, and now You're parading them around for your amusement. It's disgusting. I won't have anything to do with this, yelled Primrose. This is our life, Primrose. Stop being weak. You'll take the blood, and you'll help your sisters uphold our traditions. You'll never leave this dead woods. Do you understand? I do not want to hear another word from you. Not one. Not until it's time to recite your portion of the ceremony. Primrose said nothing, disgusted and horrified. She just looked at her mother as the dead children cried even harder at the sound of Minnia's angry voice. Not another word, Primrose, or I will truly make these children suffer. Primrose's anger and revulsion writhed within her, but she choked down the words. Direct your anger, then, Primrose. Minnia pointed her bony finger at the woman standing with the children, giving her a wrathful look. If she'd agreed to the terms, these children wouldn't be here. She wanted to be with her precious dead so desperately, to surround herself by death. Well, now she shall be, forever. These children's blood is on her hands, not mine. The dead woman flinched, grasping the hand of a little girl in tattered blood-stained dress, pulling her close as if the blind child could shield her from the queen's wrath. Mother, please stop, pleaded Hazel. Do you think I like ending the lives of children to bring them here? It's unnatural to end a life so young. They find it so much harder to transition and to accept that they have passed. I've covered their eyes to make it easier for them, Hazel. Mother, they're in pain. They're suffering. Minnia looked at the lanky skeletal creature. My love, does it hurt to be dead?
No, my queen. Not anymore.
See, they'll be fine. Now calm down. After the ceremony, the children will be put in their graves and won't be woke until their transition, which is the usual custom, barring special circumstances like our ceremony. Will they know they're in their graves? Will they be in pain? No, Hazel, my flower, they won't. However, since this woman would rather see the little ones dead than agree to the terms, she will be granted no peace. The woman let out a guttural, howling moan, causing the children to cry out. Silence! Minnia flicked her hand towards the woman, filling her mouth with a thick, putrid tar. The woman tried to call out again, but it only made her choke and gasp for breath. Stop your infernal screaming, woman! Gothel, make her stop! Primrose pleaded with her sister. Gothel stood frozen, hard as stone, watching the scene, watching her mother, to see what she would do. Hazel took Primrose's hand in hers and gripped it tight. Primrose, please stop talking. If you don't stop these theatrics, Mother's going to do something terrible to those children. Primrose didn't seem to hear her sister. Her gaze was still locked on her mother. Hazel took her by the shoulders, shaking her slightly. Prim, listen to me. I promise you, Prim, everything will be okay. Primrose shook with anger and fear, and whispered, How can you say that? Nothing is ever going to be okay, ever again. Hazel looked into Primrose's eyes. Do you trust me? I do. Then please, Primrose, trust me now. I promise you everything will be fine, Hazel said just as a blinding gold light erupted around them. Hazel wondered if her little sister Primrose was right. She wondered if anything would ever be okay again. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember, like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, share with a friend, comment down below. And remember, let it go and keep moving forward. Have a magical day. Bye.